This is another solo episode, and this is mostly. I'm going to talk about maybe a couple things. I watched a documentary, I guess it was, that I'm going to kind of mention, and then, but mostly we're here to kind of talk about what's going on with the show. The show. So I'm going to be. What should I say? How should I say this? Maybe I should have planned this out before I just started here recording, but we're already rolling now. But I'm going to be traveling a bit. I'm also, this is public information, but I am moving. I'm going to be doing a pretty decent sized move coming up, so that's going to take up a lot of time. So I'm going to be pretty busy over the next month or so. So this is only really to say that uh, the podcast may miss an episode here or there. And now, of course, I'll probably all be able to. I'll probably be able to do these solo ones, but I don't really, they're these solo ones are obviously not the best. They're just me rambling, so I'd rather not have to do these, just to kind of put out content, right? So we might end up skipping these, but and nothing is final. But yeah, there may be some weeks where we're not able to get out an episode. And so that this is just something to say, if you don't see one week, then um, the show's not canceled. We'll have a full announcement if it ever that happens, but I don't really see that happening anytime soon. Um, but just know that we'll hopefully be back the following week. I don't think we'll ever go 2 full weeks of missing episodes. Um, and even then, I don't think we'll have to miss any weeks. We may have a couple of weeks where we're doing solo episodes back to back or something like that, but for the most part, I anticipate being able to put out episodes each week. This is really just more of like a warning, right? Of like, hey, things may come up and we may miss a week here or there. That's all that's to say. But we do have some great content. Well, by the time I'm recording this, it's already come out. But some of the episodes I've already recorded are pretty great, and I think you guys will enjoy them. And yeah, we'll keep producing episodes. It's just more stuff may come up, and with mostly my end, and um, other people just kind of get busy, especially like in the fall time when uh, I guess people are done with their summer vacations and things like that. Um, so uh, the uh, the next thing I wanted to talk about. So I just watched this, so I was like, oh, maybe I should mention this because it's kind of interesting. And I'm sure most people have heard about the Bishop Sycamore High School, I guess in quotes, sort of a scandal, and where this guy who was the head coach of a football team, of a high school football team of a fake high school, right? So the high school never existed, and he basically wanted to make his own, quote unquote high school football team to compete in high school football games. And this sort of came to light when they played one of the bigger high school football games on a national broadcast. Uh, so uh, this is about where's the guy's name? I wanted to get the guy's name, but I'm trying to. This it's not really easy to see where Johnson, right? Roy Johnson or Leroy Johnson, who basically decided, hey, I don't really want, I'm not interested in the school side. And this is sort of like an open secret for a lot of these, high school, maybe not high school, but especially college, football teams, especially football, but also other sports where, you know, these sort of student athletes, lean a lot more on the athlete side than on the student side, right? they're really there to just play football, and they don't, and they're really not really interested in the school side. Um, and so this Roy Johnson guy kind of exploited this topic, and so I watched this, and so basically I'm all over the place here today, guys. I'm sorry, but um, I watched a documentary on HBO. It's called BS High, which Bishop Sycamore High School. And well, what was interesting was, okay, so it had it's produced by Adam McKay's company. Okay, so he's kind of a producer on it. Michael Strahan also was served as a producer. Um, well, in his production company, I should say, served as a producer, and they act, and I guess The Athletic, which is like it's a pretty big sports journalism website. Oh, I guess oh, that's right, they got they got bought by the New York Times, um, and some other production companies as well in on it. So it's kind of, it's like, oh, okay, let me check this out. And it's like an hour and a half, and you know, it's pretty good because it actually they interview the coach Roy Johnson. Like he's like the first scene is you see Roy Johnson, and I'm like, whoa, they got the coach. And usually, like usually you don't when you do these documentaries, you don't usually get access to the main subject of the documentary, which is interesting. And the fact that he ran this fake high school, and he's not, like he even says he's not charged with any crimes or anything because technically what he did wasn't illegal. There's no law that says you can't run a fake high school. Um, but he did. There's so many problems with how this thing, and I don't want to go into every detail about, sort of all of the problems that he faced, or the problems with his scheme, I should say. But just it's incredible how many just watching the documentary, every sort of thing that like every detail, and they kind of even say he's like the best and the worst scam artist, right? Like there's so many details where you're like, oh, that's actually kind of clever how he did that, but then the next detail, it's like, well, actually he did not do that one very well, and he's not think that went through at all. And just from the financial side to the legality of it all, and everything in between, um, is pretty incredible. Sort of what happened, and it makes you kind of it made a lot of people in education start to wonder how what the aftermath of this would be, right? And whether we need different rules on how uh, high school sports is regulated, and and how school systems are set up and things like that. So I mean that's just something I wanted to bring up. I'm just gonna sort of buff out this episode. It's gonna be a short episode because I don't really have anything else to say about it. And I don't want to give too much away because I actually encourage you guys to go watch it. I got all these extra notes on I'm cleaning up my notes app, and I got these random notes from like months ago. Why are these in there? I don't know. But yeah, I got that's really all I wanted to say about that because I actually encourage you guys to go watch it. Um, I mean, I watched a few other things. We'll talk about these other things. The Jared from Subway documentary. You don't do. That's tough to watch. I mean, that one was really hard to watch. But if you at all are, I don't want to say interested, because that seems like the wrong word, but um, if it's something you're somewhat familiar about, and uh, knowledge is something that appeals to you, then I don't know how to say this because I don't want to say like, oh, if you're a fan of this, because it's really terrible. But if you're familiar with the Jared, the guy, I forget his last name. I'm not gonna look it up, but yeah, if you're familiar, well, I'll look it up. Let's see, Jared Subway. If you just Google Jared Subway, you'll get his last name, Jared Vogel. If you're familiar with him and sort of what or his rise and fall to prominence, then you'll find then you might be again interested. The wrong word, but you might be interested in the documentary. I think that's on Netflix. But again, that's really tough to watch if you understand what I'm saying. If you're familiar with it, you'll understand what I'm saying. But that one was really tough to watch, and I don't know. But if you're not interested in that and you want something completely different, Jury Duty, a show on Amazon, which is like it's no longer like it used to be like the cool thing that the cool kids would say like, oh, like, hey, you watch that stuff, like Jury Duty is like the hipster show, but I think it's it's a little more mainstream now. It got nominated for a bunch of Emmys. But it is really a great show. Like it's a show that's great. And if you're not sure what the premise of Jury Duty is, it's basically so you have there's a trial, right, or whatever, and they need a jury. So they call a bunch of jurors to come, and they set up a jury to do this trial, right? Pretty standard stuff, It's exactly what you'd expect, right? A jury for a trial, except everyone, including all the jurors, the people on trial, right, the lawyers, the judge, even the bailiff, and all the other staff members of the courthouse, they're all actors, except for one person. So there's one juror who's not. There's one juror, there's one person on jury duty who is not an actor, and he thinks it's all real. And that sounds like a weird premise, like, okay, what are you gonna do with that? But it's actually it's fantastic because, and it's almost like it's sort of like those like hidden camera prank shows, but it goes right, but in an optimistic way, right? Like most of those, like when you think of like a Borat or trying to remember what, like, I mean, maybe like a Jackass or something. No, it's not really that. But like it's not one of those ones where we're showing the worst of humanity. It's actually one that does the opposite. It shows sort of the best of humanity because they actually find a genuinely good guy, and there's so much chaos and nonsense that happens throughout the show. Like that's obviously staged and all of that, but he doesn't know that it's staged. But he kind of maintains his head above water the entire time, and he's genuinely nice to everyone and tries to respect everyone, and he never kind of goes over the edge, even though in a way that the show is trying to push him that way. And so yeah, I thought that was it's a really well done show. It's like eight. No, I don't want to say the wrong number. I was gonna say 8 episodes, but if I say the wrong number, people are gonna get angry at me. It's 8 episodes. I should trust myself more. Yeah, yeah. So it's 8 episodes. It's fast. They're each like half an hour. Like you can watch it in like one sitting. It's super quick. James Marsden, and I've mentioned James Marsden, and I guess he's not that well known of an actor, but I thought he was a pretty good actor. But he's in it, and he's in it as himself, and he plays like the over the top, sort of like a parody version of himself as like a moderately famous actor, where like uh, he's got like name 5 movies just for you to remember who he is or whatever. And yeah, again, it's really well done. It's a comedy show. It's a great palate cleanser from maybe some other darker stuff that people like to watch these days. Yeah, I thought it was really well done, and it's just something I wanted to bring up. Jury Duty. It's on Amazon. Actually, I think it's still on Freevee, which is uh, a free service. Yeah, so Freevee. It, it used to be IMDb TV, but now it's Freevee. So it's free. You can use it. You don't need to pay for it, but it's also on Amazon. I think with Freevee, you get ads, but if you have Amazon Prime and you watch it on Prime, you won't get the ads. So you know, yeah. So, yeah, it's a great, again, it's a great episode. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. Again, it's a short. We're doing a short episode for the podcast. This is really just mostly to update you guys on what's happening with the show. And again, the intent is not to miss any weeks, but this is really just kind of a warning, right? Like if you see, and it's really more of like, oh, there's no episode. It's Tuesday. I know everyone. They go out Tuesday at 8 a.m. when the episode drops. They go to download the episode. Of course, we all do it. Um, but if you go in there and you see, oh, there's no episode, like, nothing to freak out about. It's more just we weren't able to make it work that week, but we'll definitely be back the next week. So, yeah. Again, the intent is not to miss any weeks, but if we do have to, we're definitely not going to miss multiple weeks in a row. So that's the entire show for this week. What else is going on right now? I mean, I'm recording this a couple weeks in advance because I'm trying to get ahead of my little trip that I'm going on. Oh, what is that? Oh no, never mind. I saw a thing in my calendar. I was like, oh, that seems wrong. But so that looks all good. Everything looks like we covered everything. I'm checking my notes here. Yeah. So if you guys have anything that you want us to talk about or anything that you want us to cover on an episode, you can you're always feel free to leave a comment on YouTube, or I think you can leave you can leave reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, but I think you can leave comments somewhere. You can definitely leave an audio message on our Spotify podcast feed. I'm pretty sure you can still do that. We've never gotten one. And we just want, you know what? We'll take one just to see how it works. Now, what you're probably thinking is, why don't you just leave an audio sample just to see how it works? But that's not as fun. I'd rather it be a real one to see how it works. So again, that's the episode this week. Thanks for listening.